I have seen many shadows and hear knocks and footsteps in my house. One night I saw a shadow peeking into my doorway. Another night I saw a woman with blonde hair and a red flannel shirt in my room, but there was nothing below her waist. One night, me and my husband both saw a shadow go into the bathroom, except my husband said it looked like it walked into the floor to him. We both also heard a knock on the wall another time. He also told me that one time he was standing in front of his TV and I started to move. The other night, I was awoke from sleeping to see a tall, big shadow standing by my door. And the feeling I got was that it wanted to hurt me. And my TV used to come on all by itself until I moved it. I wonder if they can follow you because I had ghosts in my house since I was a kid. I have lived in different states and still almost all of my houses have had something happen in them. One night I was at my friend's house and I had walked by one of her rooms and found the light on from under the door. I didn't tell her at first because I thought someone just left it on. So I went back to the kitchen and walked down the hall where the room was, and I never saw anyone come in or out of that room. So I went back by that room and noticed the light was off, so I told her. She opened the door and there was no one there. Another time my cat woke up growling at something. She was laying by me and started growling and backing away from something, so I touched her and asked her to calm down. Another night I had a feeling something wanted to touch me and I said out loud that it wasn't allowed to. And it seemed like it went away. I'm always on the local Craigslist site looking for bargains. Anything odd or unique, or something that I can use for my art. And I found an interesting post in the free stuff category a few months ago. A person was offering his Ouija board for free. He wanted it gone immediately. The post stated that since buying it, and apparently using it, that bad things were happening in his home and their child now had an invisible friend that they couldn't get rid of. My thoughts were, why give your ills to someone else? If you know what comes with bad spirits, why wish that on somebody else? Maybe he was afraid of what the bad spirits would do if their board was placed in a fire, who knows? But then I remembered, as a young kid, we did the very same thing. Begged someone to take ours away. The spirit we were speaking to was named Lioness. I didn't think that was a real name outside of the Peanuts cartoon. He was friendly at first, yet insisted that he didn't want to speak with me. So we figured we'd force it to. My sister's hands hadn't touched the pointer yet, and when my fingers were about an inch away, the pointer moved away from me. It refused to move after that. So my sister's friend got back on it, and Linus was angry. He told us to cover our eyes in 5 minutes. Nothing exploded after the 5 minutes, nor did we see anything, but our phone did ring. We answered, only to hear scribbling noises on the other end, and what sounded like someone trying to whisper something. So that was enough for us. I forgot who took it, but I hope they had better time with it than we did. And yes, the pointer will move and spell words. It's just not a game or a hoax. Spiritual communication does occur on the Ouija board. Unless you have a bonehead for a friend who insists on spelling his own made-up garbage. So, if you're searching around to find a Ouija board for sale or free, don't be foolish enough to take ownership of it unless you're prepared to deal with the bad that comes with it. The post has since been removed. Should be interesting to see if it pops back up in the free posts again by the new owner in a few weeks. About 4 years ago, I went to one of my friend's house in Lewistown, Montana. They had just moved in 2 weeks prior to my visit. This was a big house, 3 floors. It sat atop a steep hill, and it gave you the chills just looking at it from the outside. And the year before, during the winter, a child was killed in the alleyway just behind the house while sledding. I was 15 at the time of that incident, and our parents decided that they would go out that night. They left around 8 p.m. and left my friend, his brother, and me alone in the house. We were all upstairs watching TV. My friend had bought a new poster earlier that day for his wall. I knew what was exactly on the poster because I had the same one, so I watched him hang it up. We sat back down in the front of the TV. 5 minutes later, we turned back to the poster, and to our horror, a face about the size of a small plate had been drawn on the poster with black ink. We all ran up to the poster to examine it. His little brother touched it and said it was still wet. That's when we realized it was running out of the eyes of the face and down the wall. And then we discovered that the ink was soaking out through the wall. We ran out of the house immediately. While we were leaving, the TV began to flip through channels. We didn't go back in until our parents arrived. They moved out 1 month later. After this had happened, we discovered on the other side of the walls was his little brother's closet, and inside that closet there was a crawl space, which all over on the sides appeared to be scratch marks from fingernails. I know this is something, because I don't even get scared often, but every time I tell the story or even type it out like I am, my eyes begin to tear up. And that only happens when I am severely freaked out. The Stevensville School District. There are several buildings in that district I believe are haunted. I'd written a paper for a college course about it 2 years ago. The most activity I've ever experienced has to be in the junior high school building. That building was built in 1901. It is said that a young girl named Nellie killed herself there over a boy in the 1920s. The building was first constructed as a training school and then became a high school, before being turned into the junior high. I have had a basketball thrown down the stage steps at me in the dark while turning on the lights. I have heard a young girl say goodbye. I recently heard a little girl hum in my left ear when hanging up the broom by the stage. At Christmas, something pulled a banner off the door when I was in the building all alone. The tape was still intact and shaped as if it were contorted to the door. I would have to say the most unusual experience was when I was vacuuming the band room. It was as if I had brushed my arm against a block of ice. That part of my arm was cold for quite a while afterward. There is what I believe to be a male entity who walks on the tops of some of the buildings. He makes noises in different spots, just so you know he's there. My son actually heard him walking once. For backstory, I've lived in this house that this occurred in since I was 5. It was built in 1886, and we've had some contact with the previous owners. There were 2 families that owned it before us, the ones that built it, and then the family that, after they moved out, rented it out and completely renovated it before selling it to my family. It is close to the railroad depot, and the original owner used to work for the railroad. I don't know of any deaths that actually occurred in the house, unless you count my brother, who died there in 1998 at the age of 19. When I was much younger, I used to feel very uncomfortable in the house, and if I was left home alone, it was not uncommon for me to gather the pets and sit outside in the yard to wait for someone to come home. I recall a sleepover when I was in grade school, early 90s, and we slept in the living/front room. The next day, a couple of the girls claimed to have seen a male figure walk down the stairs and disappear. We used to play stiff as a feather, light as a board, and other similar games. Even went to the park a few blocks down that used to be a cemetery, and still has indentations of graves in it, and try to communicate with the dead. So it was fairly common for us to play these types of ghostly games. And I never quite took this particular account seriously. At one point, I recall, maybe a few years after that, we had a black cat that was of calm deposition, and he, out of the blue, parked himself in front of the master bedroom closet, stiffened up with the hair on his spine sticking straight up, and growled at the top left part of the closet for a good 10 minutes. I just stood there and tried to figure out what he was looking at, but there was nothing. I tried to get his attention or move him away, but we just couldn't get him to budge. A couple years ago, we remodeled the upstairs. We went from having 3 bedrooms and a half bath to 2 bedrooms, expanding a closet with a full bath. After the renovations were complete, I was in my room cleaning and putting things away. I saw not quite out of the corner of my eye, because I definitely saw it. A dark figure move up the stairs into the bathroom. Assuming it was just my mom, I set down what I had in my hands and walked over there, only to find no one there. I went downstairs and found that my mom was at the back of the house and no one else was there. I vaguely recall hearing that sometimes renovations stir up energies, though I don't know much about that theory. I also happened to work with a lady that used to rent the house in the 80s. She and her family believed that the house was haunted and told me all her stories as well. So I feel there's genuine energy still trapped there. Any insight would be helpful. Ghouls! My illness has finally subsided. Mostly. My throat is making like this really weird noise. Like after I talk for a certain amount of time, it makes like a noise, like a really weird noise, and I apologize because I probably sounded disgusting. But I'm sorry if it bothers you because I was editing it and it was bothering the fuck out of me. Speaking of fuck, my husband figured out how to render my gaming video. So it will be up Saturday or Sunday. And I put a fuck counter on it. So if you want to figure out how many times I could say fuck in a video, you know, watch it when it comes out because it's excessive. It's a lot. I did not realize I say fuck that much. And apparently I say it a lot. So yeah, secret word. Strawberries or strawberry. Singular or plural of strawberry, whatever you want. I love seeing you ghouls use the secret word in comments. It makes my day because I know for a fact there are people who don't listen to these end slates, and when they scroll through the comments, they're like, why are people talking about tissues? Like, who cares about tissues? And it helps me know, how many of you ghouls actually listen to the end slate, because I like doing the end slate because I love to ramble. You ghouls, you've been here a while. You know I love to ramble a lot, too much, and I'm doing it again. But as always, my last video will be on the top left, my next video will be on the bottom left. All my social medias are on the screen, as well as in the description box below. And remember, there's always someone or something watching you.